Good evening. In our news bulletin for tonight, an upgrade of the new Meteorological Services automatic weather station will provide more reliable and accurate data for civil aviation. A group of fourth-year Otago University students studying geography are on the island to conduct research. Some of the buildings at the newer primary school old site at Halawahanga are destined to be put on sale by tender. Some of the latest fishing stories has seen some major catches by local fishermen, reeling in massive fish. The newer Meteorological Service has equipment that is being upgraded to provide more accurate data to help with civil aviation. A representative from the New Zealand Meteorological Service has been working closely with the newer Met staff to install the necessary systems in place. That is also part of a much bigger upgrade and long-term project.
It's just an upgraded system. The old system was, I don't know how old it was, probably in the early 90s it was put in. So this is pretty much doing exactly the same thing, but the equipment is obviously brand new and it's all modern. So and that's what I've done, putting this brand new system. Pulled the old one out and put a new one. So it's a like-for-like system. I've just replaced it. One of the best bits of equipment is the wind sensor, which is way down there. I don't know whether you can see it on the far mast there. The old sensors were mechanical and they spin around and things move and things wear out. They got bearings inside, they wear out. The new sensors, there's no moving parts. It's all electronic, and it just works. I won't explain how it works, but it does. So there's no moving parts, and they should last a very long time, and they're very accurate. We have an international airport here. An international airport needs accurate weather information for the planes to land. So the aviation industry require a reasonably high level of forecasting, obviously, because the planes are coming and going.
The raw data is collected and processed by the Met Service before being released to the public. Although there is new equipment now in place, they serve the same purpose, but new software packages that have been introduced will add value to the new Met Service work.
Some of the software packages that we've introduced, but really, no, the data is what they're used to. The data hasn't changed. That's still exactly the same, and they will still use it exactly the same way they've used it in the past, but hopefully the data will be a little bit more accurate and maybe more reliable. And yeah, so no, not much has changed, just software packages, and it's just learning software. Apart from the fact that it's lovely being here and the weather's good, even though it's winter. I've enjoyed my time, it's been good, no.
With the new equipment now installed, the expectation is that the new Met Service will be able to provide reliable and accurate data information that will be useful for civil aviation use. A group of geography students from the University of Otago are on island to conduct research. This is the first trip of its type for the geography division at the university. It takes students out of the lecture room for some real-life experience in a completely different setting. A majority of the trip was paid by the university, but students contributed to the airfares and small expenses on the trip. There are 4 staff members from the university and 12 students working on 4 different groups, each with their own particular areas of research. Niue was selected as a field trip destination after 2 faculty members from the university were here last year and thought that perhaps this would be an ideal setting to bring their students. Today, some of the students were able to talk with Niue High School students about their trip and their studies. The group has been working closely with different sections within the Ministry of Natural Resources who have been able to assist with providing information and data.
We've been planning this field trip for about a year now. It's taken a lot of logistics both at home in terms of getting departmental approval or university approval to come here, but also establishing connections with the Niuean government and the key people here to go through the permitting process to get permission to work at particular villages. and also get the buy-in from the students back home to come as well. So it's been quite a long, involved process to get to this point. This is the first time we've come to Niue as a field trip, and we're really hoping to build a strong relationship with Niue in terms of these sorts of projects. So we're hoping that we will come back, if not every year, at least every second year, to continue to work on the same projects, to assist with particular issues that you may be facing along the coastline.
One of the groups is doing a beach study, which is rather intriguing, considering Niue is not well known for its vast stretches of beach, but more so for its rocky and rugged landscape.
Well, that's partly why a beach study here is so neat, because there are not many beaches, and the beaches that you have are very small and very poorly understood. So the type of beaches that they are beaches perched on top of platforms. We don't know much about those sorts of beaches worldwide, and so that's exactly why we wanted to come here and study those beaches. We've been very fortunate in that we have some data that was collected in 95 and 2010. What we're doing is we're resurveying those beaches in the same method that was used, and we're going to compare our results to the data that was collected in 95 and 2010, and hopefully start to build up an understanding of how dynamic they are, whether they move, whether they build out over time, those sorts of patterns that we don't know much about at present.
For some groups, early morning wake-ups to catch low tide has presented them with great opportunities to gather data, and this trip has also helped them learn more about each other. We spoke with 2 students to find out how the research is going.
These are wave probes. This is an RBR wave probe, and this is a protective device for it. So what we've done is we've had them out on the beach here. This just goes in there, and then they get bolted onto the reef, and we've left them out there for a week recording data. And so it will tell us how high the waves have been throughout the week, and we'll be able to see what's happening and look at the effect of the waves on the cliffs here.
So we're looking at the beach morphology and looking at the sediments and where the sediments are coming from. So we've been doing some habitat surveys on the platform to see what are present, so what species, like whether it's corals, corallines and all that kind of thing, and also looking at the composition of the sediment on the beaches and the slopes. We've got some articles from previous work to see whether they've changed since over the last 12 years, I don't know how many years, yeah.
The research and data collection is in progress, but the group leave on Friday, where they will analyse the information collated into a report and return their findings to those who have assisted in their research.
Niue is a totally different experience to what I was expecting. There's a lot more research, there's a lot more government happening here than I was expecting. It's really good to see your meteorological service knows what's happening with the weather, and they've got some really good data and people doing some really interesting research. It's good.
Everyone here is real friendly too.
Yeah.
You go somewhere and everyone's real chatty, and it's actually really cool.
Yeah, really helpful. It's lovely. I had never even heard of Niue before I started studying, so no.
I'm exactly the same. I'd never heard of it either, and I didn't think I'd come here, but
yeah. But we're definitely
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, definitely going to go home and talk about it because it's a great place to do research.
With the relationship and partnership developed on island, the university is looking into the potential to make this a biannual or annual program. 6 classroom units at the former primary school in Halamahaga have been earmarked for sale by tender. With the National Primary School now relocated to its new premises at Balyasi, the classroom units are deemed as surplus to requirement. These prefabricated classroom units were added in 1998 to the Halamahaga Primary School to accommodate extra students when the primary school or all the primary schools around the island were amalgamated in 1989. Sources from the Alofi South community, where the classroom units are, said they were informed in their community meeting 1 unit had already been sold. Another source from within the government also confirmed 3 are already sold. However, the Director General of the Ministry of Social Services, Gayleen Tasmania, said she is not aware of any units being sold yet, but the 3 of the classroom units will be utilised for use by the service provider with links to the education sector, and there will be 3 that will be offered to be sold by tender to the public. The Director of Education, Mrs. Bertha Tongahai, didn't have much information about it other than saying there is an ongoing process to offer them to the public by tender. Some members of the public have condemned these 28-year-old classrooms as old and tired. There have also been an overwhelming number of people who have shown interest in putting in tenders for them, and tender notice for these units will be out shortly. A 86.3 kilogram big-eyed tuna was caught off the northern coastline of Niue by Poikapanga and Scan Musiepo early last week that tipped at the scales by a huge monster sailfish hooked by Peter Vakanofisi last Saturday off the Avasele coastline on his canoe, weighing in at 96 kilograms. Scan and Poi were trawling their lines past the fish aggregating device at Namukulu, and Scan decided not to change the lure on one line, and that proved to be a masterstroke. When it struck, they were heading towards the Tuapa fishing aggregating device. The 86.3 kilogram big-eyed tuna was the biggest so far, and Seen at Matawe Resort paid a handsome price for it. The fish can fetch a lot of money overseas in a lucrative fishing market, according to someone at the wharf. Later in the week, Peter Vakanofisi of Avasele reeled in a monster sailfish weighing in just a few kilos under the 100-kilogram mark. At 21 years of age, Peter's catch off a canoe was believed to be the largest yet for a long time, at 96 kilograms. He had just started going out on a canoe for a year now, and was out with his cousin and uncle, who helped him in the battle that took about an hour and a half, with the fish dragging them towards Tamkotonga, and by the time they reeled it in, it was exhausted, and a knife from his uncle finished it off. They would have struggled to drag it ashore by canoe, because the fish was not only bigger, but longer than his outrigger canoe. The fish was chopped up at the Avasele ramp and distributed amongst families and friends of the village. He took the head and the tail home as souvenirs. And that concludes our news bulletin for this evening. Do join us again for our next news bulletin on Thursday.